Red Dead 2 has over 50 unique weapons at your disposal, and with so many options, it's really easy to get lost or end up using the wrong arsenal the whole game just because of a lack of info. But the truth is, for each chapter of Arthur's journey, there's an ideal loadout that'll turn you into a combat machine. Today, I've filtered through the whole list and picked only the best for every scenario the gang faces. From the freezing cold of Coulter to the swampy wetlands of Lemoyne, and through the tight alleys of Saint-Denis, this is your ultimate arsenal guide for every stage of Red Dead 2's story. I'm gonna show you what really works, and of course how you can get most of these weapons for free and way ahead of time, so go ahead and drop a like and subscribe, and let's jump right into what matters, the Chapter 1 Arsenal. We start the journey with the gang at a temporary camp, the abandoned village of Coulter. This chapter, unlike most, is purely transitional, and the group spends just under 2 days in this freezing place. Here we don't have the freedom to explore the map or look for outside weapons. We're limited to what the game gives us: a cowboy revolver, a repeating carbine, and the bow and arrow. However, it's worth giving a shout out to a weapon exclusive to Epilogue 2, one that Arthur should never get his hands on, but thanks to a simple glitch we can actually get it right away during the mission Old Friends. In this mission, the gang raids an O'Driscoll camp and a big shootout breaks out. Right then, the goal is to run around and disarm as many enemies as possible, being super careful not to die. The tip is to use some tonics during the process. Doing this, they become unarmed and you can go in for melee combat. At that point, you want to lure them toward Micah so they try to attack him. And since Micah is armed, the enemy's first hit will make him drop his exclusive revolver on the ground, letting you pick it up. So yeah, that's basically the method, simple and effective. Just be careful not to let Micah die during the process, since he'll be unarmed and will try to handle things with his fists too. In Chapter 2, the gang sets up their caravan at Horseshoe Overlook. Throughout this chapter, we visit places like Valentine, Strawberry, Cumberland Forest, Heartlands, and more. These areas are open and pretty wide, which favors a specific type of gear, long-range weapons, but at the same time, we still have a limited arsenal and need to cover the basics in every category. I like to start with the sidearms. Personally, I love pistols, and my favorite by far is the Mauser. The problem is, it only becomes available to buy starting in Chapter 6. However, there's an easy way to get its exclusive version still in Chapter 2. Just head over to the Valentine Saloon and start the legendary Gunslinger's mission. There you face off against 4 different opponents. One of them is Billy Midnight, and after beating him in a duel in Rhodes, you get his Mauser. I always focus on grabbing it first because it's a compact weapon with insanely fast fire rate. The magazine holds up to 10 rounds and the reload is super quick. Plus, let's be honest, the sound it makes is something else. After securing the Mauser, I always stop by the Valentine Doctor. There we can raid his illegal operation with the O'Driscolls and get our hands on a Schofield revolver. The Schofield is that revolver that doesn't have anything extraordinary. It's average in firepower, rate of fire, and range, but still more than enough for Chapter 2. Now that we're well stocked with sidearms, we need some long-range weapons. We do have the Coulter repeating carbine, but we need more punch. And you can't talk about punch without mentioning this one, the bolt-action rifle, a precision rifle with a 5-round capacity and damage that's off the charts. With this one, every shot counts. It's perfect for taking out enemies with a single bullet and easily downing large game. The catch is, it only unlocks in Chapter 3, but luckily you can get it early thanks to a tip. It happens during the mission The First Shall Be Last. In it, Arthur needs to shoot the first 2 enemies in the canyon with Deadeye before they spot him. If you do that, one of the bounty hunters will drop the bolt-action rifle. A lot of people don't like it because it's a bit slow due to the bolt action, but I personally love it because its firepower is one of the highest in the entire game's arsenal. Seriously, trust me, you can run the whole campaign with just this rifle. And speaking of rifles, Arthur's arsenal is missing a solid scoped rifle. Since we visit some pretty open areas during this stage, a weapon like that would come in handy. The catch is that Rockstar only lets us get our hands on a rifle like that at the very end of Chapter 2, which is pretty annoying. But here on the channel we don't play by the rules. There's a simple glitch that lets us snag a rolling block rifle early in the story, more specifically in the mission where we hunt the legendary bear with Hosea. Complete the mission as usual, alright, but at the end choose to head back to camp. Once you get to Horseshoe Overlook, pay close attention to Hosea's horse movements, because we'll need to jump off our horse onto his during a very small window of opportunity, and once you're mounted, ride away from camp and find a way to kill the horse. The best method is using dynamite, so make sure you have one in your inventory before the mission starts. Once there, throw the dynamite next to Silver Dollar, deal with the fact that you'll lose a bit of honor, then get close to where Hosea's rifle will be just lying on the ground. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to find because it can glitch and partially sink into the ground, but just look carefully and you'll end up finding it. About the rifle, well, it speaks for itself. With it, you basically get a one-hit kill on anything in this game, so use it sparingly. With these weapons in hand, Arthur's equipped with a powerful pistol, a revolver that can handle anything, and 2 pretty solid rifles. One's perfect for close to mid-range shootouts, while the other can hit a fly's butt all the way on the moon. And it's with this arsenal that I roll through Chapter 2. In Chapter 3, the gang leaves the state of New Hanover and sets up camp in the Clemens Peninsula. It's a camp surrounded by the waters of Flatiron Lake in the state of Lemoyne, a region controlled by the Braithwaite and Grays families. Throughout this part of the story, the gang gets caught up in the feud between these families, getting involved in shootouts across the vast fields of these intertwined estates. In this chapter, we need long-range weapons more than ever, which is why I always start with the volcanic pistol. It costs $150 and is worth every penny since it packs the firepower of a sniper rifle with the portability of a handgun. It's perfect for those situations when you need an alternative, especially when your long gun runs out of ammo and you don't have time to reload. The Volcanic can be bought at any gunsmith in the game, including the one in Rhodes, and while you're there, check out the small window to the left of the shop because you'll discover some kind of illegal deal going on. If you complete it, Arthur can get a Lancaster repeater for free. But why bother grabbing this rifle if Micah already gave it to us back in Chapter 2 during the mission and American pastoral scene? Well, it's simple. The trader never actually took possession of that rifle, so that's more than enough reason. One thing that's really common in this chapter is shootouts while riding horseback. There are several situations where this happens, like in the mission Horseflesh for Dinner, for example. The volcanic pistol isn't recommended in these moments because it's too slow and will give you a hard time. That's why I always go for the double-action revolver, a must-have for your arsenal. The game itself treats it as the ideal weapon for mounted combat. The big difference is the fast-firing rate since it doesn't require cocking before each shot, which saves you a lot of time. Normally, you only get access to it during Chapter 3, but there's an easy way to grab it earlier without having to use glitches. Just keep an eye on Sean at the camp because he offers a cabin robbery activity in Scarlet Meadows. During that robbery, you can snag the revolver for free from a locker under one of the bunk beds, and besides saving about $65, you also gear up with the revolver ahead of time. Remember, if you fail the mission, you can still visit that cabin anytime during free roam and the revolver will still be there under the bunk bed. And now that we've got solid sidearms, we need a good rifle for the wide open farm fields. The bolt-action rifle we get in Chapter 2 works well for those situations, but Chapter 3 has a catch. Besides fighting in large areas, it also has a much higher enemy density, and since the bolt-action only holds 5 rounds, it can end up being unsuitable at times. That's why I always go for the repeating Evans. It unlocks after the mission American Distillation, costing $140 at local gunsmiths. It's a quicker alternative to the bolt-action, and even though you have to pull the lever after each shot, it's way faster and makes up for it with ammo capacity. You get 26 shots compared to just 5 in the bolt action. In short, the Evans is much better suited for situations with lots of enemies, which is why, for me, it's a must-have in Chapter 3. And to wrap up the weapons I always use at this stage, I have to give an honorable mention to the rare rolling block rifle. While it's not better than the rifle we got in Chapter 2, it stands out for being a unique and missable weapon in the game. You can loot it from a bounty hunter in the Braithwaite barn during the mission Magicians for Sport. So keep an eye out so you don't miss this weapon with exclusive customization. With that, we're well equipped with 2 sidearms, one for long-range fights and another for horseback combat. For long guns, we have a super practical rifle that offers good range and a large ammo capacity. Adding that to the arsenal we already built in Chapter 2, you're more than ready to handle any trouble from the Rhodes families. After the showdown with the Rhodes families, the gang sets up camp in Shady Belle, a huge abandoned mansion in Lemoyne near Saint Denis, the biggest city in the game. In this chapter, the gang leaves behind the dense tobacco fields and steps into the narrow streets of a major metropolis for the first time. Here, much of the arsenal we were using becomes obsolete. In St. Denis, long-range weapons don't call the shots. Now they're slow and can cost you your life. In Chapter 4, everything changes. We need compact, responsive, and above all, powerful weapons. The St. Denis Police and Angelo Bronte's Mafia are armed to the teeth, and I always start with one of my favorite guns, the semi-automatic pistol. It becomes available at the start of Chapter 4 and costs $210 at the gunsmith, though you can also find it with Bronte's henchmen, but that's a matter of luck. It's a more controlled and stable version compared to the Mauser, and even though it has the lowest damage of all the guns in the game, this pistol makes up for it by being extremely fast. Plus, it holds 8 bullets in its magazine, making it ideal for urban combat, but it really shines when used in pairs. Just look how overpowered a quick draw with both of them is, kinda like that minigun from GTA San Andreas. Still on pistols, another must-have in this chapter is the M1899. It's a balanced mix between the Mauser and the semi-automatic, being slightly stronger than both but without sacrificing speed since it shoots and reloads really fast. Honestly, to me, it's one of the best in the entire game, so if you're planning to carry just one pistol on your holster, the M1899 definitely deserves your trust. It becomes available for purchase in St. Denis still in Chapter 3, right after the mission The Battle of Shady Belle, costing $350 and only sold in St. Denis. And to wrap it up, there had to be a revolver on this list. And not just any revolver, but the most amazing one in the entire game, the LeMat revolver. This gun always makes my eyes light up because it literally combines a standard revolver with a shotgun. That's right, you're shooting normally, and with the press of a button you fire a shotgun blast equivalent to a sawed-off. This switch between ammo types is super useful in tight city spaces. It's also by far the most powerful sidearm in the game. The only downside is its fire rate, which is pretty low. But let's be real, fire rate stops mattering when you're basically holding a cannon. It becomes available pretty early in Chapter 4, right after the mission The Gilded Cage, selling for $170 at the gunsmith in St. Denis. And so far we haven't talked about shotguns in this video, and the reason for that is pretty simple. Throughout the natural course of the story, we've already grabbed some that get the job done, like the double-barrel shotgun in the mission paying a social call from Chapter 2. But the truth is, up until Chapter 4, they're not really that necessary. But in St. Denis, everything changes, and once you get to the city, the first shotgun I rush to get my hands on is the infamous pump action. It's the strongest shotgun in the whole game, boasting the best range in its category. Its damage is ridiculously high, and it one-shots anything that moves as long as you're at medium to close range. It's available from Chapter 2 and costs about $148 at the gunsmith, but you can get it without spending a single dollar by visiting the Porter family ranch at this point on the map. There we can find the shotgun stored in a case, just needing a little cleaning to bring it back to its glory days. With that, we're properly geared up for Chapter 4. We've got 2 super quick pistols, a hybrid revolver, and the pump action shotgun. So far, this is the most diverse arsenal we've picked up in the video, with weapons that cover specific roles for close quarters. Adding this arsenal to everything we grabbed in the earlier chapters, including the rifles, Arthur will be more than ready to take on the Pinkertons and the St. Denis mob. After arriving in the Caribbean and a quick stop in Lacaille, the gang settles in Beaver Hollow, a dense forest area in Roanoke Ridge known for its thick woods and being surrounded by major dangers. Unlike the others, Chapter 6 stands out for having large-scale missions against heavily armed enemies. We'll face shootouts both in dense forests and in more open urban areas like Annesburg, for example, so we need to build a really versatile arsenal. By this point in the game, most weapons are already unlocked with just a few exceptions. The Mauser pistol finally becomes available for purchase from gunsmiths, costing around $250. Even though I already showed you how to get it for free in Chapter 2, take the chance to buy a second one and set up a deadly pair on your holster. Along with the Mauser, the Litchfield repeater also becomes available. It has the highest damage among all repeaters and a large ammo capacity holding up to 16 consecutive shots. And even though its rate of fire isn't the best, it's perfect for mid-range combat. It's definitely a must-have rifle in your arsenal throughout Chapter 6, especially because at this point in the story we need all the firepower we can get. It unlocks for purchase after the mission Goodbye Dear Friend, costing about $145 at local gunsmiths. Another weapon unlocked after this mission is the Carcano rifle, an alternative version of the rolling block. Unlike its brother, the Carcano shoots much faster and allows for 6 consecutive shots. It's not as powerful as the rolling block, but it makes up for that with versatility, speed, and a higher ammo capacity. Missing a shot with the rolling block can be deadly, but with the Carcano you'll always have time to fix your screw up. It costs around $190, but you can get it earlier in Chapter 4 during the mission where we steal cattle with Uncle. There you can enter the rancher's house and grab the rifle for free. Finally, the last weapon unlocked in Chapter 6 is the repeating shotgun. In my opinion, it's the worst shotgun of them all because it's not the best at anything and is about as accurate as a drunk trying to hit the bullseye. But if you still want it, it becomes available after the mission Visiting Hours Cacon, costing around $185. With that, we have the full arsenal for Arthur's final stretch. The truth is, Chapter 6 is the middle ground between all the chapters when it comes to combat environments, since it features both open areas and more urban confined spaces. That's why I can't just sit here and build a specific arsenal for it, because by this point in the game, we're more than equipped to handle any kind of scenario. I end up using a bit of everything, from the weapons at the start of the game to those unlocked in St. Denis. The best ones are already in our inventory, so now it's just about choosing wisely. As for the epilogue, there's not much to say about John's exclusive chapters. By this point, no new weapon models are unlocked, only exclusive versions of existing weapons like John's cowboy revolver and Micah's double-action revolver. What's worth a shout out here is Otis Miller's double-action revolver, which can be found in a chest inside a cave in Cholla Springs on this part of the map. It's no different from the other revolvers of the same type, just with unique customization and the weight of being the main weapon of the greatest gunslinger in the game's lore. But now I want to hear from you. What's your favorite arsenal for each chapter? I want you to put together a comment following this pattern. Specify which chapter you're talking about and split it into 2 categories, short guns and long guns. I'm really eager to see what your ideal setup is, so drop your comments so we can discuss these choices. And if you're playing Red Dead 2 for the first time or getting ready to start a new run, know that I have a video to help you start the game the best way possible, avoiding the most common mistakes that ruin the experience. Just click here next to the yellow arrow for a video where I reveal the 10 fatal mistakes almost everyone makes, so you can improve your game and enjoy it to the fullest, no spoilers. We'll catch up again in a few seconds in those videos, so big hugs and see you soon. Bye.